Piper Rockelle was living every kid's dream. Millions of fans, a YouTube empire, sponsorship deals, even a Netflix documentary in the works. But when that documentary finally arrived, it wasn't the fairy tale her fans were expecting. It was a horror story about the alleged abuse and exploitation happening behind the scenes. Her story began as a bubbly child performer on YouTube at just 9 years old, quickly turning her playful presence into a powerhouse social media brand. Her content centered on pranks, challenges, dances, and vlogs. By the time she was 13, Piper had built a cast of kid creators called The Squad, all living under the watchful eye of her mother, Tiffany Smith. The group was meticulously curated. Members appeared regularly in videos, each bringing a distinct personality that contributed to a dynamic, youthful ensemble. There was Gavin Magnus, Walker Bryant, and Lev Cameron playing roles as Piper's on-screen crushes. But what looked like harmless fun would later be called something much darker. In April of 2025, Netflix aired Bad Influence: The Dark Side of Kidfluencing. 11 ex-members accused Piper's mom manager of crossing every professional and ethical boundary imaginable, from forcing humiliating stunts to isolating kids from their families. Former squad members testified about being forced into inappropriate situations and subjected to strict, cult-like control that prioritized monetization over the kids' well-being. The film also revealed troubling tactics allegedly used to undermine former members who left the group, including attempts to sabotage their independent careers online. Tiffany and her boyfriend, Hunter Hill, would tell the remaining kids and their parents to block their numbers and cut them off. She would paint them as ungrateful and completely shut down any opposing arguments. And that's not all. Tiffany apparently had this bizarre Lenny personality where she reportedly made inappropriate comments like threatening to touch the influencers in their sleep and entering their rooms at night. But it wasn't a joke, it was a scar for life. Worst of all, this is just the tip of the iceberg. Jensen Ramirez's mother recounted how Smith reacted harshly when she expressed concern after a prank left Jensen Ramirez's mother recounted how Smith reacted harshly when she expressed concern after a prank left Jensen in tears, describing how Smith screamed and accused her of ingratitude. Another member described the environment as cult-like, saying, "If you left the squad, war was waged on you. You started to get hate texts. It was very, very difficult." The former members also alleged that their work for Piper's channel was largely uncompensated, with Smith exercising control over their YouTube channels and career progress. As one former member explained, "We were just used as content, then discarded when no longer needed." Another member explained the reality in brutal words, "We weren't friends, we were props." Another claimed their own parents weren't told about dangerous stunts until after filming. The picture they painted wasn't just unprofessional, it was something far more disturbing. The allegations were harrowing. Watching the videos on Piper's channels, fans would have never guessed that this is the reality that those kids were dealing with in the background. Thankfully though, as time passed, the young stars realized the gravity of the situation, and so, together, they vowed to expose Tiffany's true face to the world. 11 of the teens filed a $22 million court complaint against Smith and her boyfriend in January of 2022. They alleged that they were frequently subjugated to an emotionally, physically, and sometimes sexually abusive environment perpetuated by Miss Smith on and off set during filming sessions for Piper's YouTube channel. Taking the stand and telling their story to a bunch of strangers was no small feat. The kids had to build up the courage for the fight that awaited them. According to Claire Rocksmith, a former squad member, "We had to remind ourselves that we are not being pinned up against each other anymore. Having to rebuild that bond with some trust issues was really hard, but we were just making sure that we knew that we were there for each other and supporting each other." And so every one of them told their truths, and it paid off. The lawsuit was finally settled in October of 2024, with the court granting them $1.85 million as compensation. However, there was never any admission of wrongdoing, which is where the docuseries came in. It brought out the allegations into the spotlight, highlighting the pain of everyone involved and exposing Tiffany for the monster that she was, which was the entire purpose. Sophie, one of the primary voices in the docuseries, said, "This lawsuit was never about the money. It was to make sure that she couldn't do what she did to me to another kid." That said, the question on everyone's mind is, how is Piper reacting to all of it? Is she distancing herself from her mother as well? Well, when the allegations dropped, Piper stayed silent for days. When she did speak up, it was through cryptic social media posts rather than outright statements. Shortly after the documentary's release, she posted a lip-sync video to Lady Gaga's Bad Romance with the caption, "Will you still be my friend if I watch the doc?" followed by mouthing the line, "I don't want to be friends." A month later, she ripped off the band-aid during an interview with Rolling Stone, saying, "They're not making it up, but they're extending the truth. I witnessed every day." That was worse than being coy. Piper was dismissing the pain of her co-stars. She also said that she didn't believe it was as bad as it appeared in the documentary. But she didn't want to send the message that everything was perfect either. "I think that they believe what they are saying, but I was there and I saw everything." Honestly, it would have been better if she stayed quiet altogether, because Piper's words were an insult to the suffering of her co-stars. The only person she was apparently worried about was her mother. Apparently, Piper had awful thoughts since Netflix dropped the trailer, but she didn't want to let her mom know because she felt like she was dealing with a lot herself. For her, the legal consequences for her mother were her biggest nightmare. "Something I have to worry about is people coming and trying to take away my mother, because they always envied my mom and my relationship. My father was never in my life, so it's always just been her." Speaking of Tiffany, she didn't back down either. She talked at length about her innocence, issuing this statement to People before Netflix premiered the 3-part expose. "This whole experience, from the claims and power plays to the stage moms to now the Netflix reality show, has been the most upsetting and difficult experience of my life. And it's been even harder for my daughter, Piper, who's become collateral damage in a mess of adults behaving badly. And I do believe Piper will want justice one day and see that the truth is finally shared. But in the meantime, shame on Netflix for perpetuating a knowingly false narrative that puts kids in danger. I truly can't wait for this to all be behind us." But the damage was done. Millions saw the footage before the documentary dropped. Sponsors who once paid 5 figures per Instagram post began to distance themselves. YouTube demonetized her channel, significantly reducing revenue streams, while some sponsorships and partnerships reconsidered their ties due to the controversy. For a creator whose entire brand relied on a squeaky clean image, the Netflix documentary was a financial disaster for them. But Tiffany was still trying to make the most of it. According to co-director Keith Davidson, "You can certainly see with Piper that as she's gotten older, she's 17 now, the photos have become very risque. Since the demonetization happened, there's been paid subscription-type services for Piper to post pictures for people that want to see personalized photos, which you have to actually be 18 or over for. It opens up the doors, obviously, to all sorts of people who you don't want to looking at a teen that way." You'd think after Piper's empire crumbled right under her feet, she'd at least take a step back, right? But during her Rolling Stone interview, she made it clear that she wasn't going anywhere. "I can't make it look like it's affecting me. I won't. Social media is about entertaining people, and I want to entertain them and make them happy. I'll be fine. I'm getting the hard stuff out of the way. By the time I'm 30, I'll be zen. I'll be good." And that's raising concerns. It seems like, unlike the other kids, Piper is still oblivious to her mom's tactics, which has left fans worried for her safety. One person commented, "She turns 18 next year, and I'm afraid for her. Like, what is her mom going to do then?" Meanwhile, another wrote, "I've known about Piper for a while. I never knew it ran so deep. I'm simultaneously outraged and ashamed this hasn't received mainstream coverage. We got Ruby Frank, and now we should absolutely investigate Piper's mother and save this poor child." Piper's case is actually serving as a highlight for what the kidfluencer industry faces on a daily basis. People are talking about the lack of former labor protections, exposing these young souls to exploitation and harm, all in the pursuit of monetized fame. Tiffany had the kids working overtime. According to director Jenny Rosher, if they're 10 years old, they shouldn't be working 12 hours a day. Most child actors can only work about 5 hours a day, and they're getting the educational support that they need. Many critics have said that because these videos are being made in the backyards of homes, this is hard to regulate. Nobody's going to be there to enforce the hours, the education, and financial aspect. At this point, we need mental health support, legal oversight, and safeguards for these young stars to stop another case of the squad from happening. Piper Rockelle's empire might survive this storm, but the Netflix documentary definitely left a scar on the kidfluencer industry. And if the stories told were even half true, it's a reminder that not every smiling thumbnail is hiding a happy childhood.